What's going on there, YouTube? And welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from Marvel, DC, and even IDW as well. This time we're going to jump back over to DC Comics and we're going to cover Batman Year 1. This has been requested a lot on my channel, and so here we are. We are finally going to sit down and cover this story. For y'all who don't know, this was the origin of Batman before the New 52, but post-Crisis. Now, if I do remember correctly, it is no longer canon at all. I could be wrong there. But if you do like today's comic book video, please leave me a like down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. But I do hope you enjoy today's video. To begin with Batman Year 1, we start with the date January the 4th. And this is a special day because this is the day both Jim Gordon and Bruce Wayne arrived in Gotham. Jim Gordon came to Gotham for a new beginning, and he just transferred to be Gotham's new cop. And when he arrived, he sees that he is being picked up by Arnold Flash. And for Bruce Wayne though, he has been gone for some time, a very long time, and this is him coming back. Except he came back to Gotham with the mission to start a war on crime in this city. We then see that Jim Gordon meets Commissioner Loeb, his new boss. To Jim, it seems that his new boss is a good guy, but this is just a first meeting. Things can change, and for Bruce Wayne, he finally came back to Wayne Manor for the first time in years. Now we see later on in the day, Jim Gordon gets his first impression on how the Gotham police are like in the city. We see him in a car with Flash again, and Flash is supposed to show him the city, except Flash stops because he sees someone he had busted in the past, and just wants to make sure he's not getting into something. And where Jim Gordon watches Flash beat down on this poor kid without any possible causes, leaving a bad taste in Jim Gordon's mouth. On February the 12th, we see that Jim and Flash are talking about the fact that other people on the force do not like Jim Gordon. He is not as dirty as them. He is a good cop, and Flash is coming to Jim to tell him he needs to watch out because the other cops do not like him and might come after him. On February 21st, we see that Bruce Wayne is training and telling us that he is ready for his war on crime. He has the skills he needs to go to war on crime, except he is missing something. He does not know what, but he is missing something very important for his war on crime. On February 26th, we see that Flash is now talking to Commissioner Loeb about Jim Gordon in private, stating how he is different from them, and letting us know that Commissioner Loeb is dirty as well. But we see that the two are plotting to hurt Jim Gordon in 2 weeks. March 11th, we see that Bruce Wayne is getting ready for his first night out on his war on crime, except he's just going to gather some intel but also get a feel of things as well. But while he is doing that, we see that Jim Gordon gets in his car about to go out for work, except he is greeted by a bunch of men with masks and carrying bats as well. Of course, we know what this means, as they begin to start beating down on Jim Gordon. And while Jim Gordon is taking this beat down, he realized that one of the men under the mask is Flash, his partner, and they're beating down on him for not being like them, a dirty cop. Getting back over to Bruce Wayne on his mission to gather some intel, we see that he is trying to learn more about a prostitution ring going on in the city, where you have Bruce Wayne get confronted by a little girl who is part of the ring, except stopped by her boss, and her boss can tell that he is the wrong type of person and could be a cop. And Bruce Wayne tries to play his hand to make the man believe that he is the type of person. But of course, the way Bruce talks and acts makes him look like a cop, and this leads to the man wanting to attack Bruce Wayne. Except while all of that was happening, we see someone was watching this conversation, and we see it is no other than Selina Kyle before she became Catwoman. Now we see Bruce Wayne and this man begin to fight in the middle of the street. But the little girl from earlier, we learn her name is Holly, and she is a close friend of Selina Kyle. And when she gets hurt thanks to Bruce and her boss fighting, you have Selena jump down to end this fighting and hurt Bruce Wayne for hurting Holly. Except Bruce Wayne is a good fighter and he knocks her out in a matter of seconds. Except the problem is, after he did that, we see the police arrive at the scene to stop the commotion. Of course, this leads to the police shooting Bruce Wayne since he's the only one standing after beating down on everyone else. After shooting him in the shoulder, the policemen cuff him and he passes out from his wounds. And when he wakes up in the back of the police car, he breaks the cuffs off and then attacks the policeman from the back seat, making the police car crash into a brick wall, where of course you have Bruce Wayne being able to get out of the car and pull the policeman out as well. But then he escapes. We then pick up with Jim Gordon after he got beaten down by his fellow co-workers, where we see him plotting to get revenge against them because we see a bat in his car. Once a week, Flash and some of his close friends on the force have a game night at one of the guys' house, and you have Jim Gordon wait outside until all of the other men leave, because he only wants one person, that is Flash, who is supposed to be his partner. But he did see Flash leaving the house and getting in his car to leave, where you have Jim Gordon chase him down the road and make him fly off the road and hit a tree, where you have Jim Gordon challenge Flash to a fist fight. Well, he gave Flash a bat to use as a way to defend himself, because Flash does not know that Jim Gordon has some training in the past, and so this leads to Flash getting beat up on by Jim Gordon, where you have Jim Gordon just leave Flash on the ground cuffed and naked in the middle of nowhere. And Jim Gordon knows that Flash won't say it was Jim who did this, because it will be too embarrassing. Instead, he would just say that he was attacked. But getting back over to Bruce Wayne, we see that Bruce Wayne is at his home dealing with his wounds. But while bleeding out in his chair, he starts to think about his whole life, with his parents dying and how that changed his life, telling us every detail about that night, how at the end it led to the death of his parents. And that is when a bat breaks through his window while he was daydreaming. And this bat gives Bruce Wayne an idea on how he is going to fight his war on crime. This bat is going to represent everything about him. On April 4th, we see Jim Gordon getting ready to go to work, except this time he gets a call from Sergeant Merkel about a hostage situation. At this point, Jim Gordon is a lieutenant. Where he is slowly going to work, he hears that Officer Brandon is going to be there, the leader of the SWAT team. And this made Jim rush to get to the crime scene in a hurry, because Brandon's SWAT team loves to go over the top on everything, blowing things up left and right, and they could get the hostage killed. And you had Jim Gordon get there in time to stop Brandon and see if he can go in there and handle the situation without everyone dying. And so you had Jim Gordon go in there and actually handle the situation with just knocking the guy out with one punch. And the hostages are okay and the perp is knocked out. On April 5th, the next day, we see Brandon talking to Commissioner Loeb about the situation and how he feels about Jim Gordon, where you have Loeb tell Brandon, just wait, Gordon will be dealt with soon. Right now, he can't do anything because of the press giving him mad love, because all of Gotham loves Jim Gordon. On April 9th, everything changes, because that is when we see Jim Gordon is trying to spend time with his wife, but he gets a call from Sergeant Merkel about how there's a problem with the giant bat. This leads to us seeing Bruce Wayne trying to be Batman for the first time ever in his life. But the problem is, he is new to this life. He has never done something like this before. And so when he goes after a group of thugs, one thug is about to fall off the fire escape and Batman is trying to hold on to him, but at the same time still deal with his two friends as well. He is so rusty, but Batman was barely able to beat these guys, but it shows that he still has room for improvement. On May 15th, we see Jim Gordon talking to the whole GCPD about the Batman problem, because word is getting out about Batman across the city. Gotham is starting to fear Batman, but while Jim Gordon is trying to discuss Batman to the rest of the GCPD, we have Flash explain his run-in with Batman, where Flash makes it sound like that Batman is some kind of monster and was able to do things no man can do at all, making his story hard to believe. On May 19th is a special date because this is the date you have the mayor holding a dinner at his house. Except this dinner is different because the mayor has invited high-ranking people to this dinner. But also we learn he also invited people who are running the different mobs in the city. And so this tells us that even the high-level political people in the city are dirty as well. But while they are having this dinner, Batman is also outside planning something to scare them and make them aware of his presence in the city, where we see Batman blow up a wall in the mayor's house, and the lights go off, and all they see is Batman with a dim light behind him to tell them that they need to watch out because Batman is going to keep an eye out on them. June 2nd, we see that the GCPD are trying to set up traps to capture Batman, except the problem is that Batman knows what the GCPD is trying to do, setting up fake robberies hoping to capture Batman, but Batman does not fall for it. June 6th, we see Jim Gordon visiting Harvey Dent because Jim Gordon thinks that Harvey Dent is Batman. Now there's a good reason why, because Harvey Dent, before he became Two-Face, would do anything to make sure justice is served, except we see that Harvey Dent is actually working with Batman. They don't know if they should tell Jim Gordon, but after Gordon leaves, we see him hanging out with Detective Essen, and this begins the process of Jim Gordon falling in love with someone else who is not his wife. But before he tries anything with her, they see a truck driver going crazy and he's about to run over an innocent homeless person. And so you have Jim Gordon and Detective Essen try to drive up to the truck so Jim can jump in the truck and stop it before it hits the lady. And we see Jim Gordon try his best to get inside the truck and to grab the wheel to stop the truck, but he is not going to make it, except Batman is there to help out and grab the lady before she gets hit. And when Jim Gordon wakes up, he sees Detective Essen holding Batman at gunpoint, except Batman is able to unarm her very quickly. Except after Batman did that, well, more police arrived, and we see Batman try to run away before the police are able to surround him, except he gets shot in the knee by one of the cops, and so he runs into a warehouse hoping to lose them. But Jim Gordon gets a call from Loeb about how Brandon and his SWAT team are coming to help get rid of Batman. Remember, Brandon and his SWAT team sometimes take things too far. And of course, we see Brandon and his SWAT team drop a bomb on the warehouse that Batman went inside. And we see that Batman found a door that leads to a lower level, and this is going to lead to Batman being able to get the upper hand on Brandon and his SWAT team. With the bombing going off, anyone who lived nearby can hear these bombs going off. For example, like Selena Kyle. We see her and Holly waking up to the sounds of the bombs going off, where you have Holly turn on the news and find out that the GCPD is about to capture Batman, where we jump back over to see Brandon and his SWAT team are about to go in gun blazing and hoping to finally end Batman here and now. We then see after they moved into the building, all they see that is the building is clear. They can't find Batman anywhere until they find the same door that leads to a lower level that Batman found earlier. Except when they go down there, all they find is an empty basement. That is when they find out it's a trap, because you have Batman close the door on them and a structure beam falls on top of the door, trapping the first team of SWAT. And then Batman moves on to drop a gas pellet to get ready to move on another team of SWAT. We then see in a chopper that Commissioner Loeb is here, watching the mayhem happen, hoping that Brandon's team of SWAT will get rid of Batman. Except we see that Batman has a plan in motion. We see the sun is coming up, and with the sun coming up, we see Batman pull something out of his shoe, a small device that he had hidden. Except this device is able to call something from a cave that is underneath Wayne's manor. Except while Batman was hiding and getting his plan ready to go, we see that Brandon and his whole SWAT team was able to regroup, and they find Batman and begin to fire away at him. And Batman knows he needs some cover, and so you have Batman kick a beam that was holding this part of the building up, which makes the roof collapse on this group of SWAT. Except Batman does not stop there. We see him beat down on some of the officers to show how capable he is. But we see that coming from the far end of town with the sun coming up is a group of bats. The device that Batman used was to call this group of bats here. These groups of bats surround everyone, not just the police and Batman. These groups of bats surround the innocent people who were watching the whole thing, where we learn that Batman is using the bats as a way to cover his escape. Except we learn that Batman was able to get away from the police. Batman took a motorcycle and was able to escape, leaving the GCPD to sit there and lick their wounds from the beating from Batman. June 9th, we pick up with Jim Gordon hanging out with Detective Essen again in his office. Remember, Jim only been around her for a little bit, but he had already begun the process of falling in love with her. But we see that Jim Gordon thinks that Bruce Wayne is Batman because it makes sense. Bruce Wayne has the money and the reason to be Batman since his parents died. Except when Jim Gordon calls over to Wayne's manor, Alfred tells Jim that Bruce is away on a skiing trip. And you have Jim Gordon call over to the hotel and supposedly talks to Bruce. Except you have Essen tell Jim Gordon that Bruce could have someone over there to pretend to be him and fake everything else. June 17th is an important date as well because we get a small glimpse that Catwoman and Holly are leaving the prostitution ring. They are going to try to find something new. We also see Jim Gordon and Detective Essen hanging out again, but this time, this is the moment where we see Jim Gordon kiss Detective Essen, basically telling us that Jim Gordon is now cheating on his wife who is at home pregnant with his second child. On August 7th, we see for the first time that Selina Kyle is Catwoman in Gotham City, letting us know that she is now part of the costume mayhem to come in the city. But we then see Jim Gordon as well, as he is having a hard time dealing with the fact that he is now cheating on his wife with Detective Essen, letting us know that he knows that he has to stop what he is doing. It's been going on for a good period of time now, but he knows that he has to stop this now before it gets worse. On September 2nd, we see Jim Gordon try to end things with Detective Essen. Key word there, try. But she does feel somewhat bad about what she is doing. Also, she wants him to be with her. Except this same day we learn that Jim is planning to go after Jefferson Skis, a big-time mobster in Gotham. On September 7th, we see that Jim Gordon was not able to last long without cheating on his wife with Detective Essen. We also see on September 10th that Harvey Dent, who is an attorney, let Jefferson Skis back on the streets again, and Jim Gordon is angry about it, but there's a good reason why. On September 11th, we learn how Jefferson Skis was able to get back on the streets again because he has dirt on Officer Flash, and that was how Jefferson got out of jail. We learned this as he was talking to his assistant, but we also see Batman is listening in on this. Except the thing is that Jefferson has dirt not just on Flash, but also has dirt on Commissioner Loeb as well. And so you have Batman break in while Jefferson is alone, and we see him just basically scare the dude so bad that on September 12th, we see Jefferson go to Jim Gordon and tells him that he has information about Flash he would like to share. And just like that, Flash is gone and it's all over the news as well. On September 13th, this is where we see Jim Gordon having a conversation with Commissioner Loeb. Now, this leads to basically Loeb telling Gordon that he does not like the idea of Gordon putting Flash out there, mainly because of the fear of Flash telling on Commissioner Loeb as well. And we see Loeb show Gordon a picture of Gordon cheating on his wife with Detective Essen, just literally going to blackmail him with this information. On September 25th, we see Jim Gordon and his wife go visit Bruce Wayne, where we see Jim Gordon going there to question Bruce about him being Batman. Now, when the Gordons get there, well, they see Bruce with the random lady and bottles of alcohol, acting like a party boy right now in a way. And this is Bruce just trying to throw Jim Gordon off about him being Batman. Now, after Jim Gordon leaves Wayne's Manor, we see him tell his wife about him cheating. And there's a good reason here why he did that, because he is going to continue to bring down Loeb and Flash. In one page, a lot of things happen. On October 5th, Jim Gordon's wife Barbara gets a call about Jim cheating, hoping to stop him from what he is doing. On October 7th, someone tries to kill Jefferson Skis to keep him quiet. On October 10th, we learn that Jefferson Skis survived and will continue to help bring down Flash and Commissioner Loeb. On October 12th, Jim Gordon's son is born. On November 2nd, we see Catwoman watching the news about the latest break-ins in the city, where we learn that she was the one doing the break-ins, and hoping that the news would mention her on TV. Except they say it must be Batman, which makes her angry, and says she is going to do something big so the world knows about Catwoman. This leads to the story jumping over to Carmine Falcone, as he is talking to his nephew about getting him ready to join the family. Now, while they are talking, we see Batman is listening in on the conversation, but also Catwoman is there as well, getting ready to raid Carmine's place, because coming after him should get her notice in Gotham. And Batman seems to just watch as Catwoman is caught by Carmine in his band, and she takes them all down, but she makes sure to scratch his face. The scratch on Carmine's face is always brought up in future comics in DC. On November 3rd is a big day for our story, where we see Batman just going over everything that had happened last night with Catwoman and Carmine, where he knows something big is going to happen. We also see Catwoman listening in on the radio about her incident with Carmine, where the news is saying that she is working with Batman. But we also see Jim Gordon getting up to take care of his newly born son. That is when Jim Gordon gets a call from Loeb about something going on and wants Jim to handle it. Of course, Jim agrees, but this is Loeb planning to set up Jim. Now, on the way there, we see Jim going to a parking garage, but he sees someone on a motorcycle go inside the parking garage as well. Makes him worry, except when Jim Gordon goes into the parking garage, he does not find the man who was on the motorcycle, except when he gets in there, he finds his newly born son being held hostage by someone. That is when we see that these men also have Jim Gordon's wife as well, and tell him to go to the office, basically to make a deal with Commissioner Loeb, except you have Jim shoot both of these men to free his wife. And these men were not prepared for this, and so the man in the car holding Jim's son drives off, and we see Jim shoot the man on the motorcycle as well, thinking he is part of this plan as well, and then takes the bike to go after the car, leaving his wife to call the real cops and make sure the guy who was on the motorcycle does not leave. But you have this man tell Jim's wife that he is a good guy and he is going to help Jim, and we learn the guy who was on the motorcycle was Bruce Wayne. We then see Jim Gordon on the motorcycle being able to catch up to the car of thugs holding his son, where we see Jim shoot the tire and make the car crash, and Jim is hoping his son is okay, except when he gets up there, the guy who was holding his son is still alive, and they begin to fight, which leads up to his son being thrown off the bridge, except you have Bruce Wayne jump to grab the baby at the last second, where we see that both Bruce Wayne and the baby are okay. As Bruce Wayne hands the baby over to Jim and his wife, this is basically giving us the beginning of the bond of Bruce Wayne and Jim Gordon. Later that day, we see Flash is in court and basically telling everyone about everything that was going on in the GCPD. We also see that Loeb is arrested because all of the evidence that came out towards him. But to close this story, we see that now, on December 3rd, Jim Gordon is now in charge of the GCPD, and him and Batman are going to work together, because now a new threat is coming to Gotham, the Joker. And this is where we're going to end today's video. And so guys, please leave me a like down below and also subscribe to my channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read? Well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'm out of here, and I will see you on the next comic book video. Later, guys.